Simon Ekpa, the Prime Minister of the Biafra Republic government in exile, has been arrested in Finland alongside 4 others on suspicion of terror-related activities, including incitement to violence and terrorism financing. According to local publication in Finland, Simon Ekpa was remanded in custody by the Päijät-Häme District Court on charges of public incitement to commit a crime with terrorist intent. The publication reported that the Finnish Central Criminal Police confirmed the arrest in a statement on Thursday, noting that the other suspects were apprehended for allegedly financing terrorist activities. According to their words, the detention demands are related to a preliminary investigation in which Simon Ekpa is suspected of public incitement to commit a crime with terrorist intent, the police said. Simon Ekpa is accused of coordinating violent actions against civilians and authorities in Nigeria's southeast region from Finland, using social media platforms to further his agenda. Detective Chief Inspector Otto Heitonen, who led the investigation, revealed, saying, "The man has carried out this activity, among other things, on his social media channels." The Finnish National Bureau of Investigation disclosed that Simon Ekpa, alongside the other suspects, 2 of whom reside in Helsinki, faces charges of financing terrorism. This is not the first time Simon Ekpa has encountered Finnish authorities. In 2023, he was briefly detained on allegations of fundraising fraud. Simon Ekpa has also gained popularity for his Biafra independent agitation. Finnish police stated that international cooperation has been crucial to the ongoing investigation, with hearings for the suspect scheduled for Thursday next week. Something unusual just happened in Finland. Simon Ekpa, a pro-Biafra agitator and the Prime Minister of the Biafra Republic government in exile, has been arrested. The Finnish police make their way to arrest a man whose name was trending thousands of miles away in Nigeria. That man is Simon Ekpa, a name many Nigerians recognized, especially in the southeastern part of the country, known as the Prime Minister of the Biafra Republic government in exile. Simon Ekpa has been a loud voice in the struggle for Biafra's independence, but now, instead of leading the charge from his Finnish home, he finds himself in the custody of Finnish authorities accused of serious crimes. Before we talk about his arrest, let's get to know Simon Ekpa a little better. Simon Ekpa is a lawyer, a political activist, and a controversial figure, originally from Nigeria. He relocated to Finland, where he has been living for many years. For many Nigerians, Simon Ekpa became a household name not just because of his profession, but because of his vocal support for the Biafran independence movement. Biafra, for those unfamiliar, is a region in the southeastern Nigeria that tried to secede in the late 1960s, leading to a brutal civil war. Even though the war ended in 1970, the dream of Biafra has lived on in the heart of many in the region. Groups like the Indigenous People of Biafra (IPOB) and others continue to push for this cause. Simon Ekpa rose to prominence after taking over much of the advocacy from IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu, who remains detained in Nigeria. Simon Ekpa used his base in Finland and the power of social media to champion the Biafran cause. He gained supporters who viewed him as a fearless leader, willing to speak against perceived oppression in Nigeria. But he also gained critics who accused him of fanning the flames of violence in the southeast region. Now, let's talk about the dramatic events of this Thursday morning. Finnish police made their move, arresting Simon Ekpa along 4 other individuals. This wasn't a random arrest or a spur-of-the-moment decision. No, this was the result of a long and careful investigation. The Finnish Central Criminal Police stated that Simon Ekpa was being held on charges of public incitement to commit a crime with terrorist intent. They also accused him of being involved in terrorism financing. Let's pause for a moment. These are heavy accusations, not something thrown around lightly. Finland is known for its thorough legal system, so for them to make this arrest, they must have gathered significant evidence. Detective Chief Inspector Otto Hintunen, who led the investigation, didn't mince words when he said the man has carried out this activity, among other things, on social media channels. The implication here is clear. Simon Ekpa's social media presence wasn't just about advocacy. According to Finnish authorities, it crossed a line into something more dangerous. What exactly are these allegations? Finnish police believe that Simon Ekpa has been coordinating violent activities in Nigeria's southeast region, all while living comfortably in Finland. From his Finnish base, Simon Ekpa reportedly used platforms like Twitter, YouTube, and other social media channels to incite violence. His critics accuse him of ordering sit-at-home protests, which often turn violent, leading to clashes, economic disruptions, and even loss of lives in Nigeria. But it doesn't stop there. Finnish authorities are also investigating allegations of terrorism financing. They believe that Simon Ekpa and his associates were not just talking, they were funding violent activities. 2 of the other suspects arrested alongside with Simon Ekpa lives in Helsinki and are suspected of being involved in this financial network. Interestingly, this isn't Simon Ekpa's first run-in with Finnish law enforcement. Back in 2023, he was briefly detained on allegations of fundraising fraud. At the same time, Simon Ekpa dismissed those allegations as politically motivated, claiming that he was being targeted because of his activism. But this time, the charges are far more severe. While the 2023 case eventually fizzled out, this one has the full weight of terrorism-related laws behind it. To truly understand the impact of Simon Ekpa's arrest, we need to look at the broader picture. Why does Biafra matter so much? The Biafra struggle is rooted in history. In 1967, the southeastern region of Nigeria declared itself an independent state, leading to a devastating civil war. Millions died, many from starvation, as the Nigerian government enforced a blockade. The war ended in 1970, but the scars remains. For many in the southeast, Biafra represents more than just a geographical region. It is a symbol of resistance, a dream of freedom from what they perceive as marginalization by the Nigerian government. Over the years, groups like IPOB have kept this dream alive, with leaders like Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and later Simon Ekpa taking the mantle. But the movement has not been without controversy. Critics argue that the method used, like the violent enforcement of sit-at-home orders, harm the very people the movement claims to represent. Simon Ekpa's arrest has sparked intense reactions in Nigeria. For some, it is a relief. They see it as a step towards curbing the violence and unrest that have plagued the southeast. The sit-at-home orders, often enforced with brutal force, have crippled the region's economy and created fear among residents. But for others, especially Simon Ekpa supporters, his arrest is seen as part of a larger conspiracy to silence the Biafran struggle. They argue that Simon Ekpa is being targeted not for any crimes, but for daring to speak out against injustice. This divide reflects the complexity of the Biafran issue. It is not just about Simon Ekpa, it is about the hopes, fears, and frustrations of an entire region. One thing that stands out in Simon Ekpa's story is the role of social media. Social media platforms have given activists like Simon Ekpa a global stage. From his home in Finland, he could reach millions of people in Nigeria and beyond. He used these platforms to spread his message, rally supporters, and according to Finnish authorities, incite violence. But this also raises a question: where do we draw the line between free speech and incitement? Social media companies have struggled with this issue for years, and Simon Ekpa's case highlights how complex it can be. Simon Ekpa is currently in custody in Finland, and his case is moving through the legal system. Hearings for the suspect are scheduled for next week, and Finnish authorities are working to build a solid case. If convicted, Simon Ekpa could face serious consequences, including a lengthy prison sentence. But this case is about more than just one man. It is a test of how nations handle cases where activism crosses into alleged terrorism, especially when it involves international network. Simon Ekpa's arrest forces us to confront some difficult questions. What does it mean to fight for a cause? How do we balance the right to advocate for change with the responsibility to avoid harm? And how do governments, both in Nigeria and abroad, address issues that cross borders? These aren't easy questions, but they are ones we must grapple with. The story of Simon Ekpa's arrest is far from over. It is a story of a man, a movement, and a moment in history. It is a story that touches on identity, justice, and the power of ideas. As we watch this story unfold, one thing is clear: the world is watching. From Finland to Nigeria, the actions taken in the coming weeks will have ripple effects, shaping not just Simon Ekpa's fate, but the future of the Biafran struggle. Let's hope that whatever happens, it brings us closer to peace and understanding, because at the end of the day, that is what we all want, whether in Finland, Nigeria, or anywhere else. I believe Simon Ekpa is innocent of all the allegations leveled against him. This could be a plot to silence him or to put him behind bar so that the Nigerian government can continue with their terrorism act, claiming they are governing the nation. Simon Ekpa is someone who speaks with confidence. He believes that the Igbos have been marginalized. He believes that the Southeasterners have been marginalized by the federal government of Nigeria, and that is why he has taken it upon himself to fight for the Biafra independence, to liberate his people from the shackle of slavery. But right now, the Nigerian government has connived with the Finnish authority and got him arrested in Finland, thereby accusing him of terrorism financing and other heavy allegations which have been leveled against him.
Uwazuke was agitating during Obasanjo. A lot of people were agitating. So now that you have arrested, you come down Uwazuke that time, Nnamdi Kanu came up. Now that you have arrested Nnamdi Kanu, Simon Ekpa is there. I think this data from Ned Nwoko was telling you that even if you arrest Simon Ekpa today, another Simon Ekpa will come out. So the issue there is that address all those issues. The reason that we can negotiate with him and allow him to continue with his agitation. If he meets the criteria of being having his own Biafra, so be it. Don't tell us that this country is not negotiable. The unity of this country is not negotiable. It's negotiable for Christ's sake. Because if things are not working the way it's supposed to be, I told you the other day I came here. I said that somebody from China has a say in this country and somebody from Southeast. Let's use what is going on now. The president is from where? Vice is from where? Speaker is from where? Senate president is from where? CJN is from where? Court of Appeal president is from where? National Industrial Court president is from where? Chief Judge of Federal High Court is from where? You are telling me that yes, now that you have removed Kennedy Hanele and they are now brought in Jan Kojuku, that the people of Southeast will jubilate. Are you talking to idiots? Look at the people that you are talking about. Let me start with the source. In football, the people that have made Nigeria proud are the people of Southeast. In commerce, in aviation industry, name it. In academics, they are the people of Southeast. But when it comes to power, they are not qualified. I will tell you, Mr. President, from the first day you are inaugurated till as I'm talking to you, all your policies, administration is totally against the people that you are governed. Now,
what you called me. He says, Hajia. I said, sir. He said, I respect your stance on not accepting the appointment. I said, yes, sir. Because I can't be a zombie. I just can't follow you because you said I should follow you. Let me know what you have for us up north. Because if I made a mistake on Buhari, with you, the truth is written on the horizon. So I have to know what you have for us. He said he's in London. That if I can, I should go over. He offered to buy me a ticket. I said, no, sir, I can afford a ticket. And then he said, can I get a hotel for you? I said, yes, that I will appreciate. I took the next Lufthansa to London. I saw him that same night and we sat. And I said, sir, the reason why I'm not accepting your appointment is because I don't know what you have for us up north. Because in the north, every single person is either waiting to be killed or kidnapped. We can't go on like this. What is your blueprint for us? He told me that he doesn't have anything for us. I said, you mean, sir, you don't have a blueprint? He said, I can't have a blueprint because if I have a blueprint, I'll be stepping on too many toes and they might even kill me. This was what he said.
In fact, let me say this very categorical. If I were him, I would resign and face all the allegations against me. And that would have been more honorable because from all the information we're getting, my predecessor was fully involved in some of these banditry issues. Typical is the fact that there was a permanent secretary when his children were abducted. And it was unfortunate that he had to pay ransom through the government house. And it was also very clear based on all the allegations that bandits were being kept at government house. There are so many issues. So for me, honestly, if I were him, I'll step aside and face this allegation until I clear my name before I come back and continue my job. That should have been more honorable. And how can you imagine with all these allegations against him and he's still the Minister of Defense? I mean, that is unfair. This man could have been honorable, stay aside, face all these allegations, clear his name, and then come back and continue to do whatever he wants to do. Whether he wants to remain as minister or he wants to do something else, that would have been more honorable as far as I'm concerned. If I'm in that position, believe me, I'll put in my resignation letter.
Well, Your Excellency, he has not been nailed by the EFCC, so why do you think he should have been probed before taking up the appointment?
There were a lot of issues in the past. Like I said, we know where these guys are. We know where they live. We know their parents.
You know them as a government.
Of course we do. They live with the same community we live.
So why is it difficult to get them?
That is the $1 million question that I should ask you.
We are trying to understand, for those of us who are not conversant with Zamfara, have never been there, and we hear you as a chief security officer speak tonight to say you know these people, but yet you can't get them. It's a head scratcher.
It is something that we are trying to all put our heads together. That is why, from what I can do as a governor, to have this CPG as a first line of defense. Of course, military are there, police are there, as well as civil defense, but they are not under my control. They are under the control of federal government.
Ko kashe mu za ku komi za ku iya yi muna wallahi tallahi ba za mu ba wannan aikin ba sai dai in kun bari kun kashe mu kun ba kashe mu na ƴan uwa ku bari da mu da ku a zo a zanna lafiya to mu mun yarda da wannan tsari amma wai da ƙarfin bindiga wallahi ba za mu taba bari ba ku tuna America shekara nawa tana yaki da Afghanistan shekara nawa tana yaki da ƴan Taliban tun da Usama bin Laden ya bar duniya har yanzu kungiyar shi na ana yaki da ita duk ba a ƙara waɗannan mutanen ba sai ku da na samo bindigogi ku halba ku kashe wanda za ku kashewa ku kuma manoma ku ji duk da kun ka sani sun ka kawo mana farmaki ku ji manoma ku sani wanga geron da kun ka noma da wannan dawat ba raban ku bane ku sani ba su zo su kashe muna shanun ƴan uwan mu Fulani makiyaya su ce wai an zauna lafiya ba mu taɓa yarda ba sannan ku malamai na dawo kansu da kuke cewa mina ne ku ƙaro masu duk duniya ku haɗo ku basu in kun iya ku ƙaryata wannan aya da tace kullu nafsi za'ikatu mauti dukkan mai rai zai mutu in kun iya ku ƙaryata ta ko ku ce Allah da ya faɗe ta bai iya ba ku ce ran da za ku mutuwa ku gat ku mutu ko kuma ku ce tunda Allah ya halicci turji sai ya shekara 30 ko 40 ko 100 ku ƙaryata wanda ya halicce mu in kun ga ƙaryata shi
Aba is a mini state. It's a mini Nigeria, composed of various ethnic groups living together reasonably peacefully. But the peace in this state is under assault. There's an attempt at ethnic cleansing in this state and of course in all the riverine states of Nigeria. We must resist it. We must stop it. Every one of us must rise up. The armed forces are not neutral. They collude. They collude. They collude with the armed bandits that kill people, kill Nigerians. They facilitate their movements. They cover them. If you are depending on the armed forces to stop the killings, you will all die one by one. The ethnic cleansing must stop in Taraba State. It must stop in all the states of Nigeria. Otherwise, Somalia will be a child's play. I ask every one of you to be alert and defend your country, defend your territory, defend your state. You have nowhere else to go. You have nowhere else to go.
In trying to remove Jonathan, there were stateless persons that were from the Sahel region that were imported into Nigeria, and a former chairman of PDP made that statement. I'm not the person that made it.
But that importation is a fact, is it?
That importation is a fact. What has happened in Nigeria is that most of the time when something comes up today, we never sit back and say, how did we get to this point? We got to this point by virtue of the fact of the effort to remove President Jonathan. There had always been this header-farmer clash, but it never got to this point where whole communities were exterminated so that some people will be roaming freely within their land, which is what happens in Plateau and in Benue State.
I think Benue is the worst hit.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And you know why? Because most of the banks of the Benue is lush. Because it's watered by the Benue River. And so these people came and they want. And who are these people? And that's a question that we have not dealt with. The bill first said that we have to confine these people to the ranches within their states of origin. And somebody woke up and said, no, every Nigerian has a right to go around. There's no such thing like a state of origin. Why will anybody make that statement? Reason is that in trying to remove Jonathan, there were stateless persons that were from the Sahel region that were imported into Nigeria, and a former chairman of PDP made that statement. I'm not the person that made it.
But that importation is a fact, is it?
That importation is a fact. If you ask any Nigerian Fulani, he will tell you that there's something called the Bororo Fulani. And that Bororo Fulani are these imported ones. They don't own land. Therefore, what they want to do is to settle in Nigeria. They were given free passage, let me just say it, by the Buhari regime. And we were shouting at that time, don't bring people into Nigeria who are not Nigerians. They won't have sympathy. They won't know what has happened. All they want to do is displace you, take over your place, and roam freely within that place.
But there were cattle herders as well.
They were, but the Nigerian cattle herders were not carrying AK-47 rifles and other.
So these guys brought their guns.
So these guys brought their guns with them. First thing they did was to start to rustle the cattle belonging to Nigerians. And so a Nigerian herder who loses his cattle, has nowhere else to go, he becomes part of them. Because he is given, okay, you either join us or you got nothing. And some of them, of course, joined. And so we have this complicated problem. And this complicated problem is what we want to solve by saying, can we confine you to a particular place? If you have, okay, what you want to do is to move your cattle from where there is grass to another place where there is grass, and you can roam around with them. And I also pointed out on the floor of the Senate that Governor Ganduje at a particular time said, my state, Kano, has more than enough land for all the herders in Nigeria to go around with it.
This is the end of our news update. Please click the icon on the top right corner of your screen to watch my next video. You will enjoy it. I will see you again in my next update. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.